Okay, we are all here, loud and clear. So, welcome. We missed for a while this deadline after release. It's Microsoft's fault this time. It was build and it was everything. So we needed to postpone it a bit, but hopefully you will hear today from our dear guest Zoe cool new things happening. And Jay, wanted to start this with congratulating on your promotion.
Yes, very
Thank you
good.
very much.
Congratulations.
Very well deserved, sir. Congratulations.
Well, thanks. Yeah, appreciate that. And yeah, it's awesome. It's great to see the recognition from the organization and from the community as well. So appreciate you.
I'm sure being part of this podcast contributed at least a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
That was the key part, I think.
You all, basically like keeping me around. So yeah, no, I'm really excited for that. So the future is great. It's going to be lots of cool stuff that I'm going to work on with this small change. So yeah, it's great stuff.
Amazing. And yeah, welcome, Zoe. Great to have you in our
Thank
live
you.
stream. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is great. So
Yeah, is this the first time, Zoe? I was wondering.
I was trying to think that day. I don't know if this is the first time or
No,
maybe
it's
last
not.
time.
I'll tell
I don't
you.
think it's the first time. It's not. I didn't think so. I think there was another one supposed to happen, but then I switched with one of the engineers. But I did come before that. So
Yeah, welcome back.
thank you.
Well, I mean, you're just a regular guest by now, so yeah.
Yeah.
And this month or last month now already, so some things got GA, some things got in preview. And Zoe, can you tell us, just for an intro, what are those things and what are we excited about?
Yeah, so the one thing that did GA was DAX query view, right? So in desktop, we have DAX query view. You can write DAX queries on your semantic model, which is super exciting. So we did GA. Now, still the Copilot part is in public preview. There are more. I think there was just a GA announcement for some Copilot and Power BI, but the DAX query one is still in public preview, and the measure description one. So also GA'd Model Explorer and Calculation Group Authoring, right? So those are, I had, people were calling us out a little bit on LinkedIn about all the public preview features we had, and I had 5 of them in the list, and I was like, well, and I couldn't say anything yet, but I'm like, 3 of them are about to be GA. So I am super excited that those are out and available now.
Thanks for that. So now when we open this preview features tab in options and settings, we don't need to scroll up and down anymore.
Exactly.
Because you
I
claimed
think
that.
I think the scroll is gone now, maybe.
Thank you for that.
And
I haven't checked, so.
and as a team, we're planning to like get rid of loads of those things, like finally push them towards GA. I mean, field parameters is a great example of something that I actually hope by now is like, that should really go GA. Let's button it up, right? So there's stuff in there.
I actually didn't realize that wasn't GA.
No, neither did I until I owned it.
Yeah.
But
I was like,
this is great. But this is typically Zoe. Like you just do everything in 1 month. Like you just spread it out a little bit. Like
I have more things coming. Okay.
I know.
Okay. We want to hear about that.
I'll tell you about them. But yeah, so the other 2 things I have obviously is Copilot, which I do want to GA at some point, and then the other one is dynamic format strings for measures, which I just have to have a meeting and be like, why have we not GA'd on this yet? And figure out what was the missing thing there. I know there's one thing we're waiting. I can't remember. I think it was for the composite models. We wanted to make sure it had a good story there. So Jay, we may need to chat. But
cool.
I think that's the only thing. Everything else on it is good to go. We're very happy with it. And even though we're GA'd, right, we're still going to add stuff for more. So we got some more info functions coming. We're always looking at really cool things to add in, even post GA. But the GA means that we're fully supporting it. It's in a good shape. We're very kind of happy with it. So. And then as for stuff that's coming up, obviously for DAX preview, we want to support Live Connect and we want to bring it to the web. So those are the two things that are the big ones that are coming up soon. So keep looking out for those.
Okay, amazing. So DAX Query View also comes to Web UI, right? Did I
Correct.
understand that? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That one's a little further out, but the Live Connect's going to come sooner
Okay.
than that. Yeah.
Cool.
That's nice. And regarding Copilot in DAX Query View, what can you tell us about that? So is it working?
Of course,
I
it's
can
working.
answer this. It works. I tried it. I will give you my use case. It works.
That's awesome. It works for me, so I'm glad it works for you. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it works on my PC. Yes.
It works on my computer. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, no, it works well. Obviously, it's not perfect. It's not going to be 100% perfect. Nice, get your Copilot hat on.
Copilot, yeah.
So I can show a demo if you like now. So let me figure out how
Absolutely.
to share my screen. I'm going to put this one over here and present. Do I get to? Okay. Do I get to pick my screen? I haven't actually shared in a while.
No worries.
Okay, so entire screen. Now here we go. Okay, I think I'm sharing one with Power BI on it.
I will edit to a stage.
There we go.
Here
There
it
you
is.
go. Perfect. Okay. All right. So I forgot what we were talking about. That's fine. It's probably DAX Query View Copilot, right? So here we have, there's a number of improvements we actually just did on the DAX Query View Copilot. And so I want to go over some of those. Those are kind of recent, right? So you come in, actually I'm going to switch to my other one. I'm so sorry. Here we go. Right. So when you first come into DAX Query View, you'll see this initial query. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, see if that helps. I should have made my screen resolution a bit bigger, right? So this is just your top query. And then for Copilot, we added a few new things. I'll go over some info functions if we have time, if you guys are interested as well, right? So when you first come in now, you'll see that there is a little gutter button.
Copilot icon. Oh, nice.
Yeah, little Copilot button, so you can invoke or close it by here. You can come to here. You can also do Control-I, right? So there's lots of ways to get Copilot to appear in DAX Query View. You'll notice we added some inspire buttons here. So when you first come in here, you're not just going to be like, okay, you have to ask Copilot something. Now it'll actually give you some prompts, right? So we get some suggest measures, explain a DAX topic, and write DAX query, right? So we can just click on one of these buttons and have Copilot kind of not only, just kind of get in there, and so you can kind of see what you can do in this screen, right? So here it's picked. Now you can scroll. Right now, what's cool here.
Sorry for interrupting, Zoe. It picks something from your current model, or is it just a random? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. Picked right from the current model. Now, I'm not sure why it's trying to filter stuff, right? It's doing a summarized columns of the thing. Now, what's cool here is before we weren't able to run it right away. You had to hit keep it, and then you could run it. But now you can actually run this before you've kept the query from Copilot. And it is based on my model. It went and looked at my model, went and looked at the schema, and decided to go ahead and create this query, right? So it's going to filter it down to 2023. Now, another new thing that we just added. So before you have to keep it, select it again, and then edit it. If you type something else here, it just kind of restarted the conversation. But now you can actually conversation. So I say remove the year filter, right? So maybe I don't want to see that. Now I can kind of conversationally build these queries. And then again, I don't have to hit keep it between. I can just, so now it's gone ahead and done that. So you can see it's removed. Now it's just that summarized columns. I can again simply run it here. And I can continue to do stuff like I can say, okay, so we have, add in profit. Right, so I can continue to build on this query with Copilot. So it's a conversationally now it can really create those DAX queries. So you see, oh yeah, this is good. Oh, actually, I wanted this, or no, change that, order it this way, do something else, right? And it's going to go ahead and keep doing that, and then hit run, right? And now I can see those results down here. So now when I'm ready, I can now just hit keep, right? And I can see that query. One of the things that I think is kind of cool. It's really cool to have that conversational, but we haven't figured out a kind of way to do the diff as you're doing the conversational.
Oh, it
where
also
to see-
adds comment, right?
Yes,
Edit
yes, it already adds this
Okay.
one up here. Yeah, so it'll say the DAX query is generated by Fabric Copilot with.
But for
whatever the
profit,
prompt
you
is.
added profit with another prompt, right? And it
Yeah,
added
the other
comment
prompts are gone.
Okay, but
We're still
added-
working on getting
comment-
that to keep that list.
inline comment for profit.
Yes,
Added
yeah,
profit.
it added the fact that it in a response to your
Nice,
original
nice,
question, it says like, oh, I just added that one in
Exactly.
as a follow-up, right?
nice, nice. I love that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's cool about if you actually do return into here, you say, okay, maybe we say show by year instead of product, right? Or an addition, right? If you do something where you've selected it, you go back to the Copilot, it's going to show it kind of in a diff view, right? We didn't get that diff view when you initially did it, and then we're conversationally adjusting it. But now, because it's already in the thing, it will actually show that diff properly, right? So it'll show
this
you change.
this is really helpful.
Yeah.
Right. So this is kind of neat. We want to add in kind of additional kind of diff functionality in the future. But for right now, we have this. You can also, so now I can again run it before I hit keep. I can even ask it kind of to explain what's going on while I'm kind of in the midst of doing it. I can have it explain kind of any query I select, but even when I'm kind of in this conversation, in the prompt, now it's going to go ahead and kind of explain to me what's happening in this query, right? So saying that, the year is where how I'm grouping it. It's creating column called total sales, sums up the sales, that kind of stuff. So it kind of gets into what's going on. And again, I can just keep and I'm moving on with my life. All right. So this is actually kind of neat. One of the things that I see that's kind of neat is in DAX Query View, you have kind of this new measure creation flow, right? So if I go to my measures, right, I have my year-over-year profit down here. And I can just evaluate that, right? I can see the result. I can have Copilot add me in a year, or I can be not slack and add in my year as well, right? So I can see kind of what's going on. It's not very exciting right there. But I can also do, oh, sorry, this thing is in my way. But I can also get in and say, define and evaluate, right? So it's just going to do the current measure, but you can see that. And then when I hover over these, right? So if I look at profit, I can hover and I can see that it's sales minus this costs. Let me see if I can zoom in a little. There it is. Right. So when I hover, I can see that. And I can see down here, even on that bigger formula, right? It always shows me that information. And then you can kind of get in and do like the full stack, right? Define with references. Now I can see all my measures spelled out for me in one go, which is quite neat. And then I can also see them evaluated that way. And then Copilot is kind of neat. If I wanted to say, okay, I have this one for orders, I have it for profit. Maybe I want this for cost. So I'm going to do define and evaluate. And I'm going to say, change this to costs, right? So I can another way I demo this is generally like they're using a change all occurrences. Like if you can get away with that, it falls apart when you do sales and the table's name is sales, right? This one will do just kind of go through the measure and figure out exactly the spot you want to change it, right? So it's gone ahead and updated that. I can run it, and I can keep the query, and now I can see this, and I can add this measure to my model, right? So I can go ahead and actually create measures. I can modify measures. I can see them all side by side. So it's actually quite neat. And Copilot's there to help you along that journey. So we also have the other button we added in is a suggest measures, right? So we can actually have it go ahead and look at the model and suggest maybe you want to add in this measure or not, right? So kind of a way to get you started. This one is, let me see if this scroll bar. Right, so here it's going to add in my total sales. Obviously, I probably already have a total sales and the average rating. I don't have an average rating. I just have a rating, which is actually the average, right? And I can say, add in another measure, right? Let's say sales per order, right? So I can do something like that in, and I can add in that measure, right? So you can kind of build your measures even this way, and you can see it. And what's cool about doing desk reviews, you can just run it, see the result. You can say, hey, add in, like this one's just doing the row trick to show just the all up value. But maybe I want to say, okay, this is cool. You have my sales per order is added there, and I want to see this, show this by product, right? And so I can have it add in additional things and again, kind of conversationally build this. And I can also use IntelliSense. I can keep it and then start editing, then select it again and go back into Copilot, right? So I can kind of mix and match what I want to do. Okay, it's added that summarize columns. You can keep the query, you can run it, right? Obviously, its numbers aren't looking great, so I'll have to go figure out what happened there. It's probably something in my model. But yeah, so that's kind of how you can kind of go through and use that DAX Query Copilot.
Yeah, I also had, I need to share this with you guys and also with our audience. So interesting use case, when usually when you have a model, you want to create like explicit measures for all your numeric columns.
Yes,
like
yes, it does that really well.
Yes,
yep.
And so I just wrote like, can you create measures for all numeric columns from fact sales table except for relationship key columns, and use some aggregation, and it creates like 10 or depending how many numeric columns you have, and you just keep them, and you have immediately like 10 new measures created for you in the model.
Yep.
This
Exactly.
was amazing. Yeah.
Another one that it's like a time-saving one. It's very basic.
Yeah.
You know, I could have done it, but I'm going to be sitting there for a minute, you know, typing. Another one is like, you know, show all measures in this model by year, right? So where you can kind of quickly get that syntax created for you that then you can go ahead and further modify, right? And kind of gives you that. So it's not only just for like, you know, doing complex tasks. It's actually extremely great for the most easy tasks, right? So now I have all my measures. I can, you know, run that. I can keep the query, and now I can come in and I can start hovering, and I can see what's happening. You know, I can see what's happening here. I notice I don't have any descriptions yet on my measures. I must have taken them out for the. So, oh, this one does. Let's do year profit. So we also have Copilot here to help with your measure descriptions.
That was not new, right? That's something we shipped earlier, no? The description.
Yes, this is not new. We have been making adjustments to the prompt, trying to get it to be a bit more, you know, a bit more helpful to the users. Make sure it's not getting too wordy and stuff. So that's not a new one. We are going to be adding in the bulk for that soon. So that will be exciting.
That's
right.
Nice.
So and then, so
will it be able
here,
to create calculation groups as well?
Yeah. So the problem with calculation groups right now for DAX Query Copilot is that we don't have like a defined syntax for a calc group, right? So that'd be a cool thing to add in, something we're looking at adding these defines. Like there's a define for column and a define for table, but they're not like fully supported yet. So we're working through kind of, don't use those just yet. We don't want you to use them in this kind of syntax, but eventually when they are fully supported in DAX queries, then DAX Query Copilot can do that. And also then we'll have those code lenses that will kind of add them to the model. Right. But that's a future scope. I don't even have any timelines on that just yet. It's just stuff that we know we want to do. Right. So this is where your description would show up here in this kind of hover. So you can create calc groups in desktop now. Right. So that one you can do. But for the Copilot, because we don't have a defined calc group and defined calc item, it can't really touch it just yet, which is unfortunate.
But I think that's an important thing to remember, right? It's basically doing just defines, right? So whatever you can do with a define, Copilot should be able to do, right? Relatively easily. So anything that you can do with a define, you can. So calc groups is one. There's more stuff like that you just simply don't yet define using a define. Yes, that sentence was correct.
Yeah, so but we can do like show sales by time intelligence, right? So DAX queries can actually help you look at what's happening in your calc group. Hopefully this works. I haven't actually tried this yet. So we'll do some fun like that. So there you go. So there's my show as. It picked the right column. It had my measure, right? And I can run this. Now I can kind of see what's happening here, right? So I can actually evaluate my calc group using my DAX Query Copilot, right? So I can test it out here, but I can't define a calc group just yet, which is unfortunate.
For debugging your calc group, this is great stuff, right? So, did I do all the work? Great, yeah, it works. It works perfectly. Just defining it is something that you can't.
But it's definitely something I want to do. I have a list like this long of things I want to do.
I know.
There are only so many engineers.
There's more. There's more on the list, and we're adding more stuff on the list every day. So yes.
Exactly.
So I don't want to open a can of worms, but can I define a calculated column here?
So you can. Right, that's the calc call. There is a defined column, but we haven't gotten all the bugs yet, and so the DAX Query Copilot, I don't think it'll even use it. Right, it'll use vars and stuff like that, but it won't use that column, and it definitely won't have a code lens. Like we definitely did not plumb it. We thought about it, but we went back and talked and like, well, why are we saying we can't use this? And like, well, we want to test this and this and this, and I'm like, okay, so we'll wait on that one. But as soon as the defined columns becomes like solid and good and ready to use, like DAX Query View will definitely take it up.
Right. Well, the reason I made a joke of that is what is happening in the chat right now. Like people asking, like, "Where's Chris?" Right.
Oh, I didn't see the chat. Where is the chat? I don't know. Oh, there's the chat. Now I see it.
Like why do you need calculated columns? Yeah.
No, but I that's why I said like I don't want to open a can of worms, right? So, but the fact that I think the rules should be. And I think that's what you're doing, Zoe, is like, hey, any define note that we can do, Copilot should be able to help you with. So if you need a calculated column, even though you might not need to use it, or you should be, think about that it shouldn't be used here, who are we to tell you shouldn't be doing it, right? So we should just give you the tools, and you need to be empowered to pick the right tool at the right time, right? So
exactly. There's always a use case for everything, and it's always exception to every rule of, don't ever do this.
Visual Calcs don't have a define yet, right?
I don't think so. It's up to you, Jay.
I know. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yes.
I assume if calculated columns are on the roadmap, then also calculated tables probably as
exactly.
well. Okay.
Yeah, anything that has a define should be able eventually to get in here, right? So, yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
So and the other thing is we want to get kind of more granular with like kind of DAX Copilot, right? So this one does DAX queries, and it's very specific that we tell we're doing DAX queries. DAX queries includes the defined measure, so you can do measures with it, but we want to start looking into kind of maybe getting down into specifics, right? So looking at adding, Copilot just for measure creation, or just for columns, or just for calc columns, or just for calc tables, or just for, whatever you want it to do for DAX. But, making sure it has the proper kind of guidelines for kind of what DAX is allowed in what scenario.
Yeah. We have a good question from Fernando. Can Copilot help us optimize measures?
That's what I wanted to ask as well, yeah.
Yeah, it's something that we had on, like, we wanted to do. We didn't really have a whole lot of time to kind of think. It will try, right? But it's not something that we really kind of geared it towards doing, right? Now, when we're doing the measure Copilot, like one-on-one just for measures, and then we can get a little bit more specific on kind of, these kind of things. But, optimize or, show different approaches, right? Whichever works for your model, right? It's going to be kind of tricky to truly optimize if it can't kind of see, how, if it can't really analyze like the size of your dictionary or this or that, or whatever things are going to come into play with optimizing it, right? We also wanted to do just in DAX Query, wanted to bring in some more kind of optimization tools and stuff like that, but that's not currently funded yet. So that's
Copilot will be amazed when it realizes how creative developers can be when creating models.
I don't know. Copilot can give them a run for their money. But yeah, so like I play around with it sometimes, and sometimes it gets it right, sometimes it gets it, it does something weird, and it doesn't, it has the same kind of limitations as what everyone else does. Like it, sometimes gets confused with vars and stuff like that, right? And then we actually added in. It's actually a little tricky to get it to do it. Let me see if I can. Sometimes this works. So like show me sales by product, right? I put some garbage here because what I want is, what it does is it will create a query and we run it through the parser. Okay. It didn't pass the parser check. Let's try again. And then at that point, if it still doesn't pass, it will actually return the query and you get this prompt. So a way to kind of spoof it is to put some garbage at the beginning. But you get this prompt here, and it'll say that this query contains errors, right? You can rephrase and try again, or you can fix it yourself. So that way, because we went back and forth, what is the value of bringing back a query that's not going to run? But, maybe something simple just to tweak, and maybe want to give the users a way to kind of kind of see it and make that judgment call themselves, right? So we can say, hey, we know there's something wrong. We know it didn't quite dust it up. We're not quite sure what happened. So instead of just saying, I can't help you, we'll say, this is what we came up with. You can kind of adjust it if you like, right? So this one obviously is no problem. I just spoofed it by adding in some issue at the beginning, just to kind of force that message to show. But so that's another thing that we also just added recently. That's the other. I knew it was one other thing in my head. And I couldn't think of what it was, and that was it. That we did add in some sort of check. Now, there's a number of errors you can do in DAX, not just parser ones, right? You can do stuff that this looks legit, but maybe isn't valid for your model. You have a wrong filter, right? The DAX Copilot cannot see all the data in your table columns. So if you say, show me products for USA, but in your model it's United States, not USA, right? It's going to do USA. And then, of course, your query will return nothing, right? Because it can't actually see the data in the model. Now we have a new Copilot, that is kind of looking into the data into your model, but we haven't they're not, the DAX query one's still just looking at your schema.
Yep.
Kind of the metadata, right?
I have one question also, which is quite similar to what Fernando asked. So Fernando's question was if the Copilot will analyze current measures and suggest some improvements. My question is, when we create a brand new measure, does Copilot somehow takes into account some best practices when writing DAX, or is it just correct DAX no matter of performance or what?
Yeah,
so I don't know. To give you an example, like we learned that when you filter data, you don't filter tables, you filter columns. Does it something that Copilot takes into account or not? Or just return correct results and that's it?
So the Copilot really only looks at, we only check it on the parser, right? We don't run it. Okay. We don't run the query. We do not run the query for you. We debated that, but for direct query and direct link models, right? And when we get to Live Connect, we wanted to kind of be a little bit more, cautious on kind of running queries in the background without you knowing that it's the reason why we prioritize being able to run the query before you keep the result, right? So you can test it out, what Copilot generated before you keep the query. So you can really say, yes, this is what I wanted. That's kind of the number I was looking for, right? Because that's one of the indicators that maybe this is giving me the right number. But to your question, which I've already kind of forgotten. Sorry. So what was your question? I did. I was like, I went it on about some tangent. I'm like, this is not the question you asked, and I'm so sorry.
No worries. No worries. Yeah. All good. So no, my question was does it when it generates the DAX formula, does it take into account some recommended practices, or is it just go and return correct results?
So yeah, so it's just trying to do parsing, right? So it's not going to return, it's not going to run it, so it's not going to do that. But yes, we're trying to, we had when we test these, the Copilot and how we're getting Copilot to cooperate with DAX, right? we wanted to kind of give it some, instructions on kind of best practices. But what we found is sometimes it skewed it a bit too much if we gave if we gave some examples, right? So you can give it some examples or whatever when you send it in, but then it kind of really skewed it towards those examples to the point where it became kind of ridiculous, right? Because there's really no like one size fits all best practice across the board for
Absolutely,
everything you're going to do in every single model, in every single situation. So we just kind of let let it kind of do its thing a little bit without, because I think if you start to constrain it a bit too much, it becomes very kind of a bit too prescriptive and a bit too skewed towards that certain example. So that was kind of the balance we had to kind of thing. And so we test it very vigorously and, try and make sure it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
It needs to test your model is ugly. I can't help you. This is the best I can do with what you've given me.
We need to introduce Copilot for model best practices, just to turn on and say, okay, delete that, next.
Yeah, so when I'm testing it out, right, I try to test it on really nice, best part, have the proper one jump to the dimension. We have everything in a measure table. Like one of the things that kind of frustrates me that we're working on is like, if I have a measure table, it tends to not use it, right? I'm like, if it has a measure table, use my measure table to save my measures. I mean, thankfully it's conversational. So it'll put them all in the fact table and like say, okay, change that to this table, and it'll change it to the proper table, and life is good, right? So kind of giving it instructions on kind of not only that, but also information about what things mean and what things happen in the model, right? If you have a measure group, a measure table, use it. What is a measure group? Does it know that, right? Those kind of things. Like DAX is very nuanced around like measures, right? When you're looking at SQL and kind of SQL copilots, it's just select statements and, that kind of stuff. And it kind of does some aggregation. There's no like, any SQL equivalent to kind of a measure, right? A named object that's doing a calculation that's run on the fly and changes context and changes all those kind of things. So, so those are very, very specific DAX things, and then semantic model things like measure groups and stuff like that, right? So, and then we want to bring in more information, but we also have to be careful. There's only so much information you can send in each go round, so we have to have some reduction. How do we pick which is the most important things that should pay attention to with that goes with your prompt? So that's all. Those are kind of like the kind of behind the scenes work that we do, but it's not quite as pretty and UI and shiny as the Inspire buttons. But we, it's a lot of things that kind of go into it, and then we're constantly testing. I tested out in really ugly models. I tested on, big fat tables, on multi schemas, Snowflake, whatever, every bad things with measures, without measures, with bad measures, right? All kind of things. So it's a lot of different ways you can kind of test, and then also on number of objects, right?
Right.
That's a huge one, right? If you have 2,000 measures, right, that's a lot of text that has to go along with your prompt, right? So we have to kind of reduce it in some way. If you have 500 tables, you have 100 tables, you have 50 tables. I mean, really. So kind of getting into, it's not really about number of rows in that case. It's just number of kind of metadata objects.
Yeah, complexity of your model, size of your model, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. Exactly.
Yep.
But yeah, and then I saw a comment on the DAX query visual, and that's a great one. I like that one a lot. I'm not sure. I'm, it's something that'd be kind of really cool to do, but I'm not quite sure we'll get there. But not in the short-term future, that's for sure. But it is kind of an interesting idea. But it would be a very limited visual if you think about it, because the DAX queries, all the visuals have DAX queries, right? And you can get to them simply just by coming in here and then going to where's my performance
analyzer? Where is it?
Yes, run.
Yeah.
And then now you're in my sales table, right? And then you can actually, I'm going to zoom in on this a little, right? So you can copy the query and you can run it in DAX query view, right? So you can run this query, but you'll notice maybe that, these are very specifically created queries, right? And they are made so that you can switch out the visuals. Life is good. Everything doesn't collapse and fall down. If you think about that, like the more I thought about it, I was like, oh, okay, fine. I get it. It's a bit complicated. So if we had a DAX query visual, most likely it would only output like this, right? If you had a user generated query, it's really going to output as a table. It's going to be really hard to visualize, right? That was something that we, toyed around with the idea. Should we visualize these results? And I was like, well, I mean, the point of DAX queries is to write a DAX query, not really to visualize. That's the report's job, right? That's what you can do after that. But it is kind of, maybe we can get it to the point where maybe we can convert this to like a table visual. I don't know. But and then we have defined statements and how do those play into it, right? That kind of stuff. So thankfully, we also have the Explore feature, which is amazing. And so hopefully we can do some more integration with that, which does give you kind of a drag drop, visual experience with a semantic model. And then if you wanted to maybe go and then write DAX queries on top of that, you could start from there. And then basically it's the same kind of thing as a performance analyzer, convert back over. But we're still in early conversations about how those are going to play together.
Awesome. You also mentioned some news regarding info functions. Is there something interesting that you want to share with us?
Yes. Yeah. So I just want to quickly go over the info functions a little bit, right? So we have, I'm going to zoom in a little bit up here. I have a thing going on. There you go. Right. So we have the info functions. And so if you come in here, this is the measures one. And I have one. What is the point of putting DMVs as DAX functions, right? The DMVs are really cool, but they have this kind of weird SQL-like syntax. There's an actual word for it. I cannot remember what it is right now. Jay, I don't know if you know it. But it actually is a different, it's not SQL, but it's something else. Anyway, but we added in, so when I was doing DAX query view, one of the biggest things was like, how do I incorporate DMVs, right? DMVs are really helpful. I want to run them here. I definitely want to run them. But then they're like, well, do we want to parse that? And they have a number of limitations that you can't join them and stuff like that. So with the info functions, right, we added a bunch, and basically just the DMVs, the TN schema DMVs, right? Those are what they are, and then you can run them, right? So, but then what you get is kind of this. Oops, this one there, right? So you get this kind of, table ID, which is 20, which is fantastic. I don't know what that is. You get the name, right, and then you get data type is also 20. Stuff like that, and the state is 1. All right, I'm assuming a state of 1 is good, just because they're all running, right? So it's like that. Now I have on my to-do list, it is my fault. I have a document that I want to, like a Learn doc, that's going to kind of get into where you can find all these enumerations, where you can find out what they all mean, and how you can kind of parse the DMV docs to find more information about these functions.
If I remember correctly, it is buried somewhere in SQL documentation, or
yes.
I know I spend a lot of time searching for those things. And
I'm so sorry, but yes, I'm trying to surface that a little bit much thing. But what's cool about one of the limitations of the DMVs, you couldn't join them, right? And so add them as the DAX functions. They actually output as DAX, the tables of data, table data type, and you can now join them. You can do select columns, you can do renames, you can do all these things. So here I have another evaluate where I've gone and done that, right? So I've gone ahead and selected the columns from info measures that I want. I selected the columns from tables, I joined them, and then I can, I'm just going to run both. And then now I can have kind of a friendlier, oops, wrong one, this one.
Can we ask Copilot to do that for us?
So Copilot
info
functions is very new, right?
Yeah.
So Copilot, unfortunately, it takes a while to get caught up with all the new stuff, and info is just a little bit too new. So
and
anything.
I think that's actually a great point about the whole.
It is a great question.
Right? Like people want Copilot to do everything right now, but let's not forget, Copilot is trained on a corpus of information, right? And that corpus will grow for the new stuff, for example, the info functions, right? But that will mean that over time it will learn. Same thing for Visual Calcs. People want a Copilot for Visual Calcs. That's great, but there's not enough corpus to train a Copilot on yet. So it's just a matter of time until the corpus is there, and then you can train it on it. So same thing for info functions and everything else that we're doing. Yes, it's awesome. No, Copilot will not be able to do it tomorrow. It will be it's like
exactly
asking a baby to assemble a rocket, right? It needs some time to train to do that.
Exactly. So one of the other big limitation that is not fun for the info functions is people want to use them in calculated columns, calculated tables, right? You can't use them in calculated tables. Now we are working on a way around that limitation, right? So I have, so one of the things we have some stuff like calc dependency is coming very soon, which is the one that always get asked about is calc dependency. We have the storages now. Storages is in there. And then I think we just added that one. And then calc dependency is coming. And we're also bringing in some of the restrictions. So the DMVs have restrictions, which is basically just ways to kind of limit the result back. Now, in a DAX function, you can always filter it, as part of you writing the thing, but now you can actually include that. Now, but the restriction became really important for calc dependency because it has a query restriction. Like, so you can specify a query you want it to evaluate the calc dependency for. So that one is coming, and so we're allowing all the restrictions to work across the board for the info functions as part of that. So that's coming soon, and then a little further out, kind of making friendlier versions of like info measures where we've actually gone and mapped those enumerations for you, so you don't have to do this. Or I have one for columns here, right? So I'm mapping out this one. The one I think that's pretty big that I did was the one for relationships.
Oh,
this
wow.
is 200 lines long, right? So this is what we get from info relationships. And what I did, is I parsed out kind of with friendly names, and I kind of parsed out all the properties into kind of words, right? So what does that cardinality mean in words? What does the cross-filter behavior mean in words? Like that kind of stuff, right? But as you see, this is not a small query. This is a 200-line query. And one of them is this kind of enumeration work, right? So we have the security filter behavior, the cross-filter behavior is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and you have to go hunt through those DMV docs and find it. So we're looking at a way to not only make it so, like this one's probably a good one here, is the cardinality, the state, right? So this is the state enumeration. I have it mapped out and I pushed it through so you can actually see what those are. But we're actually working on making kind of a friendlier version that not only spells out all the enumerations, but also will work in calculated tables, right? So that's a really huge one. We're only going to do a few of them like that, like probably the big ones, like, tables, columns, measures, relationships, right? Just the bulk ones. But then those will actually kind of make your model self-documenting, which is cool.
This will be really helpful.
Yeah. Agree.
So that's kind of the DAX query view and the Copilot. There's obviously more Copilot to Power BI other than the one in DAX query view. We have the Copilot pane is now available here, right, in desktop. There it goes, right? So, and you can have it kind of, it will answer data questions and create report pages and all that kind of cool stuff.
Yep.
Right. And so I really like it. I think this one here, I did one where like, this is what I got from Copilot, right, on my model. This is just a financials data that comes baked into Power BI, right? And then I can go ahead and I can adjust it. Sure, I started with that, and then I went and maybe adjusted some of the, axes, made them kind of so I could read them all. And then I can further go ahead and do more stuff, right? So this is with field parameters, and I have, all my stuff all fancy, and I just took out some of the stuff and I added a map, which is kind of neat. And so this was kind of just a really quick kind of the report one Copilot, you can use it to really get started and then adjust to kind of what you need.
May I ask one more question? Sorry,
Yes.
I have a lot of questions because I'm really excited about Copilot in Power BI. So the question is, when can we apply some modifications to model itself? Like I want to hide some columns, and I say, Copilot, please hide all key columns in my model.
Yeah. So that would, right. So that, anyway, it's on the roadmap. I'm not sure how much I can really talk about that one just yet. But it's something that we
enough to
definitely
know that
hear.
it's on roadmap. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely something we want to do, and it's something that we want definitely Copilot to kind of help out with. So so we hear you loud and clear, especially on that one. But yeah, definitely something we want to do.
It's more in the
like-
ballpark of the best practices, right? So basically, like, hey,
Yeah.
you should be hiding that kind of stuff. Like, oh, you have one big table. Eventually, you want Copilot to be able to say, hey, you have one big table, but you're suffering with all your DAX. You should really remodel this. Do you want me to do it for you, right? So all that good stuff. We're thinking about that. We're prototyping some of that stuff as well. But yeah, I mean, it will take time for that to actually be worthwhile.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Fair enough,
definitely hear you on all of that. And stuff that you get in now, and stuff that we're working on for kind of longer term investments. We're also working on that as well, right? So, just keep that in mind. We definitely hear you.
Thank you.
With all the things you are working on, we need to. We have a question for all of our guests, and you probably answered it when you were the first time here, but you need to answer it again. So,
I don't remember, so it should be good. Or the same one.
Yeah. Thinking of all of those features, which one is the number one missing feature in Power BI for you?
Oh, I think you did ask me this, and I have no idea what I said. Obviously, probably my features that I haven't built yet that I want to put in the product. Those are obviously my number one. But I can't tell you what those are. So one of the things that I actually ran into, and I think it's actually a limitation probably for security reasons, but I was very frustrated that it wasn't there, is I was trying to build a way to cycle through all my models in the workspace and then provide the GUID so then I can pass them to as a function in M to actually run my info functions, right? But you can't do that. You cannot build the connection string based off of the results of an earlier query in Power Query.
With semantic link? No, not possible with semantic link.
Is it possible with semantic link? I haven't tried that one
asking,
yet.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I think it might be. It might be in that one. I think that one should. I don't know. I have to try it. But I tried it in Power Query. I want to try it in Power BI Desktop first.
Okay.
And I ran into that limitation.
I mean,
I was like,
for sure you can do something like that using the APIs, but that is not what you're after, right?
No. Yeah. So that was kind of that made me sad. So I wish that was there. It's not going to be there ever, just so you know. So don't hold your breath. But yeah, something that was cool that I like. But there's so many things I want to add in. Like one of the things I actually keep thinking about, and I think I probably need some support if you guys think it's a cool idea, is the calc dependency coming in. I've gotten some feedback for maybe like running a calc dependency on a report page, right? So instead of having you to go and get all your visuals queries, toss them into calc dependency, and then combine it all together, just have that kind of one-click action from like Performance Analyzer that says, tell me all the measures I'm using on this report page, right? Tell me all the columns, or the opposite, basically. Then you could kind of do a query that says, okay, tell me all the measures I'm not using on this report page. So stuff like that kind of stuff is kind of neat, but it's kind of more into kind of optimization of reports and stuff like that.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah.
Next time I'll think of something that Jay's working on and say, man, this feature's just not in the product. And I don't know who's slacking, but.
Well, I mean, I'm making notes on the side, and I'm going to ping you on Teams because there's a couple of things you mentioned that I am working on. So
there you go. All right, if you can release that one in the Power Query thing, that'd be great. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah. One example that I'm not working on, but the others. Anyway. We need to talk more often. That's clear.
It's true.
No. It's fine. It's also great that I get the chance to listen to you now, because I go like, oh, that idea. Yes, those are all in the plans already somewhere. So we just need to sync up. Anyway, that's fine.
Exactly.
We're just doing the alignment right here publicly. I mean, that's just
that's a good thing. So our podcast is helping Microsoft Teams as well to communicate better.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not sure that's something we.
I'm only half joking. There is some truth to that, though. To that statement.
It is. I mean, there's a lot of features. I mean, we have a lot of PMs working across the product, right? there's sometimes that I see a feature and I'm like, is that new? Is that new?
no,
Was that always
it's hard to
there?
keep up. Hard to
Yeah, and so it's really I know all my features, right? And that's all I think about and all I look at all day, every day for hours on end. And
Yep.
you know, and probably think way too much about in my spare time too. And you know, so sometimes it's hard to, you know, then there's a whole bunch of people who have the exact same drive and motivation and working on really cool things, and you know, it's really just hard to keep up. You know, so
It's hard to keep up. That's the key sentence.
It's hard to keep up for all of us, right? Not
Yeah.
just the people on the product team, also everybody using the
Absolutely.
product, everybody in the community.
Absolutely.
It's tough to keep up.
Yeah.
And some part of me wishes we would like take a pause sometimes, but also this is the fun of it, right? And like
it is great fun.
Yeah. So you know, really taking a pause too much is also a little bit of a risk, right? You very quickly become like, you know, the sleeping giant that's not like on top of the market anymore, right? So we don't really have another option than just keep running and running and running. But this is a great example of like, oh wait, yeah, there's stuff, you know, that all of us are not aware of, and we need to sync more often, both internally as well as externally. So
Yeah, and we do sync internally too. I mean, sometimes
we
I get
do.
frustrated with all the meetings we have, but then they're really, really valuable. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, if I didn't have that meeting, I wouldn't have known. And we
Yeah.
all, you know, vet everything with everybody else. But you know, I know one of the reasons this podcast is late is because I was sick, so that didn't help either. So
that for sure didn't help either. But anyway, yeah, that is that's the way it goes. So.
Fernando has another question in the chat. I don't mind if I take it. Is to talk about formatting the numbers in the result grid
Absolutely.
of DAX
So
Query View.
You cannot interact with the result grid at all, no?
What's
like
that?
you cannot. Can you now right click and say copy value and stuff like that already, or no?
Oh, you could always do that. I think we're adding the context menu, but you could always copy Control C. That was always available. So that was always there.
I mean,
but
like
for the
interaction with mouse and say, hey, you know what? I want to copy all of these values or select this whole column or move stuff around, right? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, you can't move the columns around. You can
Right.
copy anything selected, copy, paste into Excel and stuff like that.
Right.
So the formatting of the numbers in the results, right? So this is something that poor Jeffrey. I have much love for Jeffrey, and I'm constantly complaining about certain things in DAX. If it's been there forever, right? It's nothing new, right? They don't have formats, right? When you run a DAX query, it comes back raw. It doesn't have format, and we're debating whether we should put some we want to actually include some format. If the model has a format string for a measure, we should probably use it when we show the results. Maybe we have some ideas for options there, like, you know, maybe show with a format if we can find one, if we can match by the name. If you've defined some random measure, most likely we cannot help you, right? And then maybe we want to expand like the syntax a little bit more for DAX queries to actually, you can specify a format, right? Because if you go ahead and use a format, you're going to run into the same problems you have with using format in a measure, which it converts it to a string, and then you try to sort it and it doesn't work out well for you, right? Stuff like that, like bringing in those things. And then one of the things we are doing, we are starting to invest in that result grid a bit more. Thank you. And one of the things we want to do is like, we have some like, you know, maybe auto widthing the columns for you. And if you run it again, it doesn't reset the column width. I was trying to do something, I think with my info functions, and every time I ran it, it reset it, and I was so angry. And so I went and complained to my engineers, and they're lovely because they hear me complain a lot, but they do fantastic work. And so like stuff like that. So we wanted to make so that we really did not focus on the result grid too much. On the first pass, we wanted things to run. We wanted the intelligence. We wanted to focus on the editor, but we are starting to bring in now stuff on that result grid. Whereas we have more formatting options, the column width stuff, and then even exporting options, right? So right now you can only copy and kind of paste it somewhere, but we want to have, especially when we go to web, you know, or in Live Connect, you know, you have those options to kind of have it go to Excel with a live connection, or maybe do something else, and, you know, have these kind of cool options available to you. So
Awesome.
I want to do all the things.
I think I was just looking at time. So we are doing Data Jazzers live from Redmond for more than a year now, and I think we just broke a record. So because we usually schedule it for half an hour, but
Oh, I'm
Copilot
so
was
sorry.
so
Did I go over?
no, Copilot was so good topic and entire DAX query view and everything that I was enjoying each and every of these 55 minutes, and I can do a lot more. And I think it's really a breakthrough feature, which will at least help all the developers stay in the same Power BI desktop, not leaving anywhere, do all the debugging, testing, playing around. And that's really everybody was looking for. And
Yeah,
with
wonderful to hear.
the help of Copilot, fortunately, we don't need to think anymore. So just give me some.
Well, that's actually like one of the primary scenarios to use Copilot. I'm like, yeah, I could probably do this, but I don't actually want to, and so I'm just gonna have you do it, and then I can say, yeah, okay, that's kind of where I was getting at. Cool, that works, right?
Yeah.
I love it for that kind of work, right? Primarily for me.
It's
So,
great.
but yeah, and it's super
Beautiful.
excited. It's super excited to actually build these features, right? Like I was a Power BI consultant before, like, and then I joined the product group. I'm like, I get to do all the things I wanted to do in the product, and this is so cool. So I'm glad that you guys like it, and these positive feedback really helps because I love it, and I think it's been amazing to work on, and I've learned so much more about DAX. I thought I actually do DAX pretty well, and then I started working on DAX Preview, and I'm like, okay, there's like a whole thing here I didn't even know existed, and now I know much better, and so yeah. This has been great.
Yeah,
for sure.
So thank you for letting me go over. So sorry.
No. Thank you for going over. Thank you.
I mean, it's great to talk about all of these features, and you share it so well with all your excitement. So I think that's great. No, I think
really
that's
do love my
part of the
desk.
reason why we love having you here. It's like, that like you just ooze out all this excitement and just bring us into the story, and then before you know it, as August was saying, I was like the same. Wait, are we already an hour in? Wow. Okay, what's happening?
It's so good. And one of the things, and by the way, one of the things that like I'm super excited about also, and is the visual calcs, right? I am like, I love that thing. So it is amazing. I need to play with it more.
I know.
And I think it's just Copilot is just preview, so we still have a lot of features. We need to have you as a guest here, and I'm looking forward to all those upcoming features as well.
Sounds good. Yeah, next time we can maybe tackle direct link.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually one of the coolest things about DAX Preview coming to Live Connect is now you can do it on direct link semantic models.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for joining. Thanks everyone for staying with us.
Yep. Well, it was great once again, and we'll meet each other soon with the next release.
Soon.
That will be less than a month from now. So.
Yeah.
Thank you all, and thank all of you watching, and see you, as Jay said, really, really soon.
Yes. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.